Hi, everybody, and welcome to another webinar by While Poland, which is the Polish affiliate of the World Institute for Action Learning. My name is Tom, and I will lead this webinar, this meeting for you. And actually, I should say that I'm welcoming you to the webinar by While, not even While Poland. It's just the World Institute for Action Learning, because today I'm joined by Tuan Paez, who is my colleague in While, the World Institute for Action Learning. Tuan is a former athlete, a former sports coach, a former manager, and right now an entrepreneur and an action learning coach. Hi, Tuan. How are you doing?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I feel fine, and I love talking about all what has to do with action learning and teamwork, etc. So I enjoy this. Thank you.
In my first question, I'm really interested in the connection that you have with sports and with business, and right now with coaching business people. What is the difference that you see as a former athlete and as a former sports coach and a manager, and right now as a team coach? What differences do you see between sports teams and teams in business?
Yes. Okay, that's a nice question. I think the biggest difference I see is that when you are a sport team, 90% or 95% of your time you are training, and the other 5% you play the game. When you work in business, you play always a game, and just have maybe 5% or 10% to train. And what I had to learn when I go in the first part of my life, I was always in sport, handball. And after that, I was going into business. And then I say, okay, we have a goal in business, and then we go to work on the goal. But how many hours do we have to train to reach the goal, to have the capacity to do that? And that's the biggest difference between sport and business.
So what is your vision of teamwork in business? Because you were a business person, now you are a business person too, but you were a manager, right now you are an entrepreneur. I know you have your team too. So knowing that and having that sports experience, what is your vision on teamwork in business?
Yes, when I look in business, and especially maybe where I'm coming from the Netherlands, but I see it in a lot of countries, it's always a struggle to work in teams. We work more as an individual in an organization. We have one-by-one meetings, the chief with his employee. When I was manager in the team, I spoke one-to-one with my employees. When I'm in the sport, I speak with the whole team. Everybody was together, so we shared our problems, we shared our knowledge, we shared our fears. And when in business, it was just one-to-one. And otherwise, we work at the whole company. We have a mission and a vision and strategy for the whole company. And I think it could be much better, and that's how I work, to make a strategy for a team. So work with 6 to 8 people on things. And that's really interesting for me. Why is their work in business not so different?
So if I'm understanding correctly, your vision is focused more on developing culture and effective cooperation on the level of small units, like teams of a couple of people, rather than building the culture of the entire organization. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. I think when you have a challenge or a problem as an individual, make it bigger, make it a team problem or challenge. And if you have a problem or a challenge on an organization level, make it smaller to a team.
Very interesting. And why have you chosen to focus on action learning among other methods of working with groups and teams? You are a former sports person, and then you switched to business and then to coaching. There are so many methods of working with groups and teams, and you are very much focused on action learning. You lead While Netherlands, so
Yes.
like you are the director of one of the affiliates of the World Institute for Action Learning, so you are much into action learning.
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes, it's a little story. When I was 38 years old, I came in contact with a While action learning.
Okay.
And when I saw what it was, I said, this is what I always did. I didn't knew that it's called action learning, but this is what I always did. And then I have
When you say what you always did, do you mean in sports?
in sports and in business. I'm starting in sport. After the sport, I was going in business, and I use things I had learned in business. I had learned in sport. Sorry, that are the things I use in business, and that is what I call action learning. And why I love action learning and why I really believe in action learning are two important things. The first is we live in an uncertain world, and when you work with action learning, it's different from business administration. When we work in business administration, you do step 1, then step 2, then step 3, then step 4, and that's it. And then you say, okay, and if you do that steps, you are really going to reach your goal. And I think the world is so uncertain, the VUCA world where we live, it is when you do the first step and the second step, maybe the third step leads you back to the first step. So I'm looking for more as a loop how I work in that. So that's what action learning can do. They go, what's the problem at this moment? When I solve the problem, I receive the next problem. How do I save that? And that's a process. And the second thing is when you work with action learning is that you learn more in practice. And when you learn more in practice, you make in practice with your team or with your members, you make new knowledge. And I think the old knowledge is going to be faster, that it had no impact anymore. So when you are in business at the moment, then you are learning. And that are the two things why I love action learning and I believe in action learning.
In your answer to my first question, you mentioned that the difference between sports teams and business teams is that sports teams practice a lot and business teams don't really practice, they just perform.
Yes.
Do you think action learning can be a way of practicing in business, or would you see some other ways to train and practice for business teams before they can actually perform well?
Yeah, I think it's impossible when you say we want to go in business also training 95% of the time and just 5% being in business. That's impossible.
Yeah.
It's possible to have some more training, maybe 10% or 15%. But when you are in when you are in performance, and then you go to learn in your performance and have a reflection of your performance, then you go to learn in your performance time. And that's what I call action learning. Because when I look to maybe a soccer team, the soccer teams learns a lot in the training, but they also learn a lot in the game they play. So you can learn when you are in performance. And that's the connection to action learning. But it's impossible for business teams to train 95% of the time. And you go bankrupt.
In your presentation at a conference in 2016 in Warsaw, when we met, you talked about teamwork and business work using metaphors. I remember you mentioned upstream, undercurrent, downstream, terms like that, which are not so obvious for people. And I remember it was really interesting for those listeners to learn about that perspective of yours. Can you say a few words about these terms and how you understand them?
Yes. I'm looking to the two terms. And the first thing I call the upstream, and the other one I call the undercurrent.
Okay.
And I think the upstream is everything what is physical.
What is physical?
Are you reaching? Visible.
Physical. Visible. Sorry, visible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. How much money you make, or what's your ranking from your company in your country, etc. That's and
the KPIs, I imagine.
The KPI, the KPIs,
right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And everything what's visible like KPIs, I think that and if they only are in the upstream, then you have puzzles. And
puzzles.
When you have a puzzle, yes,
okay.
A puzzle, and I see a puzzle as here you are, you're going to that, and if you know when you do these steps, you're gonna solve the puzzle.
Okay.
And then I think that's only the thing you have to do there is manage it. If you can see it, it's in the undercurrent. And the undercurrent is not visual. That are the emotions, that are the feeling from people, that are the psychological safety. And you can't manage that. You have to create an environment that we can talk about it. And then you need leadership. When we look to Simon Sinek, he said it starts with why. And he really say, in my opinion, it starts in the undercurrent. And I think that the big challenge of an action learning coach is to connect management and leadership. Have leadership from the undercurrent to make a vision, to make your purpose, your why, and always make strong goals like KPIs in the upper stream. But when you only work in the upper stream on KPIs, you're going to be a bureaucrat. And if you only stay in the undercurrent and never make visible KPIs, then you're going to be the happy loser. And I think that's the challenge for all companies, for all teams, to make connection between the upper stream and the undercurrent.
Well, let me play a devil's advocate here, because you say that the undercurrent is so important and you have to create the environment to talk about emotions, everything that is not really visible. But, for decades, we had organizations, companies that were so focused on KPIs and that upper stream, as you call it, everything visible, right? Making money, making profit, bonuses for people, and so on. And now we have you, for example, who's talking, no, there is something more to it. You have to look at the undercurrent. You have to take that into account. And still those, global, large corporations were built, I guess, primarily by looking at the upper stream, right? Why should we change? Why do you think we should take the undercurrent into account anyway, if the history has shown us that it is possible to run a good business and build a large corporation, being so focused on KPIs and making money, making profit, and growing the business?
Yes, I think it's possible. It's what you say, but I think there are much more capacities in organizations where you go make connection with the emotions of the people in your connection. If what they do is more what they love to do. So when I work on my own talent, I do work I love to do with more fun and much pleasure. You can reach more and more. And I think we have built a society that we only work on the short terms. Mm-hmm. If we have next month the results, then it's okay. So I don't think it's worse or better, but we can do more. And I think companies who work with a real why, with a real purpose, and go to look at the undercurrent, they are successful for the longer term.
Mm-hmm. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you can look only at the upper stream, at what is visible, but if you do that, you're not tapping into full potential of the people that you have in your organization. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It starts when I look in the Netherlands at the primary school. We all work for KPIs. What is for geography? What is for etc. for all the things. And I think, but we don't look what's the talent of this child. Mm-hmm. How can we develop the talent? And I think that there is so much more possible.
So let's get a little technical. If you were to tell us a few words about what in action learning it physically looks like to work on the upper stream and undercurrent, because as far as you're describing it, as far as I'm understanding you correctly, in action learning you see both processes. Is that right? That you see that both the upper stream is important and the undercurrent, and that is important too. So what exactly does this look like to you? What exactly do we do in action learning that refers to the upper stream and undercurrent?
Yes, I think the first step in action learning is can we look what the real problem is in our organization, in our team, or maybe in our country? And then starting with the most important skill in action learning is asking good questions.
Okay.
And then when people start asking questions, go to look for the real problem, in 99% in the situation, it's an undercurrent problem. Mm-hmm. And then when we have
Uh-huh. So do you mean that 99% of business problems relate to problems with emotions or communications or human relations?
Yes. And then when we try to solve it, we also have the same thing. So let's take a look at the sustainability of the world. Let's make a very big problem we have with the environment at this time.
Mm-hmm.
We can look at the problem is that the earth is going to be warmer, the climate is changing, but the real problem is the behavior of the people. The real problem is that are we in Europe, how we're going to collaborate with China? Or how is going to States collaborate with South America, etc. That are the real problems. So, and then when I am a company and I want to go to work on the sustainability of the earth, that's an undercurrent purpose. But when I want to do it in a company, I have to earn money with it. So I can pay it. So I can pay the people who work for me, so I can add you more value. And then I have to connect it with the upstream. Because if I only do good things but don't earn money with it or don't have KPIs, then I'm going to be a happy loser. But that's my vision in how to connect it.
Sure. I know that in the Netherlands, you have used action learning in different environments, different purposes. I know you work with business and that you, for example, work with schools, like primary schools.
Yes,
can you give us some details about what your action learning programs look like, projects, maybe how you run your sessions? What exactly does your action learning work look like?
Yes, when I look at the last year, we were working in primary schools. And at this moment, we need 20 to 25% more teachers than we have.
Okay.
So in the Netherlands, it's not popular to be a teacher. So when young adults, when they are 18, they make choices. They don't make the choice, I'm going to be a teacher. So that's the problem we have.
Yeah, it's similar in Poland, actually.
Okay, that's the same. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're going to take, okay, normally we're going to take all solutions and actions to have more teachers. We're going to give them more salary. We're going to give them more freedom, etc., etc. But I think when we work in action learning, we're going to work to the real problem. And then we say, okay, is a new teacher welcome in this team? Are we in this team old people? Do they have respect for younger people? Do men have respect for women? Do women have respect for men? And then most of the time you saw that's not well at all things. And then we're going to have the real problem. And if the real problem is that we have not an environment for young people to develop themselves as a teacher, that's where we have to work on. Not on more salary, not on other goals, not on marketing campaigns to have more teachers, etc. That's how we work on that. The other thing is we work for the greatest bank in the Netherlands, the Rabobank. And the Rabobank, they had 550 banks in the Netherlands. All a region has one bank. And then they said, no, that's not normal for this time. Everybody is banking with internet, so we can use the whole world. So we make one bank from that. And when you go from 550 banks to one bank, everybody's changing its function completely. It's completely different jobs they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then with action learning, we brought people together. And we're going to say, okay, what's in it for you? What's in it for us? What is happening here? What are we losing? And what can we take back? And can we make a new part of collaboration? And how can we work with when we need less people? How can we do with that? And we all do that in action learning. And action learning is that everybody really can talk together. That's two examples.
Yeah, so tell me more about your projects. How do you structure them? For example, when you're working with a group, how many meetings do you usually run? How long are the meetings? And for those of you, everybody watching this webinar, just a quick information that in action learning, we have these two kinds of projects, single problem action learning and multi-problem, right? In single problem, we usually solve one large problem that concerns a department or maybe the entire organization. in multi-problem sessions, we invite high potentials, leaders, managers to talk about their individual problems. What kind of sessions do you run? So tell us something about the structure of the programs, how long, how many people you have in the sessions, what kind of sessions do you run?
Yes, okay. When I look at the session, most of the sessions are 90 minutes for me. So I always use 90 minutes. Doesn't matter if it's a big problem or a small problem, because when we work 90 minutes, we can do something, and we can use more times because then we have an energy lag, etc.
So let me make this straight. So when you are arranging a meeting with a team, you say, okay, let's meet on Zoom or Google Meets or whatever at 9 o'clock, and we finish at 10:30, and that's it?
Yes. Okay. And at 10:30 we have an appointment on what actions we have to do before the next session and what we have to learn with it. Okay, sometimes I have a problem and I need one session.
Right.
Sometimes I need 6 sessions, and sometimes I need 10 years.
Okay.
We make a continuous process of it. But what's for me very interesting is that when we work in a whole company, then we work with something I call a community of practice. And what are we doing in a community of practice? We're starting when it's good with the board, with the top of the organization.
Okay.
And we're going to have a discussion together with, okay, what are the problems we have? And can we make other teams in the organization, like a waterfall? We have a team for the marketing problems. We have a team for the financial problems. We have a team for the process problems. And what are the people we need in the teams? Not only the top, but also the professional. Also the pizza man, somebody who doesn't know what's in it for him or her. But that's are the people who ask the questions. And our more diversity in the teams, how better it works, but how more difficult it is to coach a team. So I'm looking to the highest level of diversity, and then I need a high level qualified coach who's going to lead that process. And then everybody is working on their own problems, and we have also the top team as an action learning team. That the solutions come back to there, the other problems come back to there, and that's a process you work on, and it looks very structured. It is also structured, but there always happen things you don't know before. And then you need to be flexible enough. So that's how we work with it. But the other thing is that you have to work on team building. And I think that's one of the failures some action learning coaches make. They always talk about action learning. But action learning is not the goal. Action learning is a way to build a high-performing team. Action learning is the way to reach your goals. And then the first step I make, and maybe later you have some questions I talk more about, is that do I know from my team what the individual goals are from all the people and what the collective goal is from the whole team? What's the purpose? What's the goal? And most of the times, the individual people have different personal goals. But that's no problem. When I go look to a soccer team, I go to the soccer team in the Netherlands, to Amsterdam, there are some people, they want to stay in the Netherlands and play nice football, and after that they want to be a coach. But there are some younger people in there, they want as soon as possible go to Spain, to Barcelona. So they have different personal goals. But when they are the champion of the Netherlands, then it's good for the older people because he have fun. Champion in the Netherlands, and the younger one who wants to go to Spain, he can play his interview. Look, he's from the champion from the Netherlands. Give them more chances. And I think that's the first step you have to do in teams, to know what are the individual goals and what are the team goals, and can we connect them to each other.
Very interesting that you can connect them even though they are different, and at first sight they're not really connected, right? Everybody has a different goal, so you would imagine how can they have one common goal? But there you go. That example from sport seems to be very adequate. that you
Yes.
can have one common goal, even though people have different goals. So is that how you start working with your teams? Before, in action learning, we talk about problems. So you might as well say, hey, what kind of problem you have? What do you want to talk about? Do you do that? Or would you rather say, let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about what goals do you have for the team, or what kind of goals do you have individually? Is that how you start your meetings?
Yeah, yes, I started with, and it doesn't matter if we start with a goal or a problem, but somebody said, I have a problem, okay, we have to solve it.
Okay.
And then if somebody still say, I have a goal, I say, okay, what problems do I have to solve that you can reach your goal?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I, for example, I want to run a marathon. That's a nice challenge, but
Right.
then we have to look to the problems. What are the problems? My muscles are not strong enough.
Mm-hmm.
I have too much weight in my body.
Right.
So that's the problems I have to solve. And when you, at the first thing, only want to look at that everybody has the same individual problem or the same individual goals, you never reach diversity in your team.
So that's something you don't want.
I want diversity, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So you even want the situation in which people have different goals, individual goals.
Yes, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take the challenge.
Mm-hmm. But
and then,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
And then we have the next step. Then when we say, okay, when we have all these different goals, what is our team goal or team purpose? What do we want to have together? And that is what gives us connection between each other. And not only connection in the upstream, that we work in this company and then we cannot pay our house and can have a night life. No, what is really connect us in the undercurrent and the why. And that's a process, and that needs time, that costs time. But when you have time for it, you take time for it. Then after that slowing process, then you're going to get much faster to your goals. I really believe in that.
To go back to sports, I'm interested in if there is any connection between business and one interesting fact in Dutch sport, that you guys are really a fairly small country, right? You're not a big country, and you're pretty big in sport. Like Dutch teams seem to be really good at sports disciplines, at least some of them. Why do you think that is? And is there any connection between that fact and how you work with business people?
Yes, I think when I look how good we are in sports, with the Olympic Games or football in such a small country, then I have two things. One thing is I'm proud of it, but it also makes me humble.
Okay.
Because we're also a rich country.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have many problems. We have a lot of money. We have good things. And then when I look to the sport, and then I think in the Netherlands, there is a very good connection between the upstream and the undercurrent in sports.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that are managers that are not only nice people, there are some very hard, and they say, okay, I give you a program in the Olympic Games when I believe that you have the talent to reach a gold medal, and when you want to have the effort and the energy to reach a gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe in you, I give you a chance. If you don't believe in you, we quit immediately. So that's a very hard process in the Netherlands. So you are on the right side or on the wrong side. And if you're on the wrong side, you're never going to become on the right side. But then when you are on the right side, everybody is out the upstream is given all the knowledge, all the experience, all the training, how you eat, how you sleep, how you sport, where you live. They are very good so they serve you in it. Mm-hmm. But also, we have coaches, we have a psychological who helps the people to say, okay, what's the real purpose you want to do it? Why do you want to be the athlete of the world? And what are you going to do after the gold medal? Mm-hmm. Is then because when you are a top sport, when you are 32 years, it stops. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's very good organized. And now when I look at this moment, we have, when you look to a soccer team in the Netherlands, there are 11 players, but they have 20 coaches. one coach for the physical, one coach for psycho, one coach to help them. When you have when sportmen have they have a girlfriend, then they're going to help you. How are you going to have a nice connection with your girlfriend? How do you fix it that you are not always able to be with her because you are driving over the whole world, etc. It's so good organized, and not all the Dutch people, but 90% of the Dutch people are proud of their sport and love it, and they have a lot of effort for it. I think that's what we do very well in the Netherlands, and we also do that by some companies like Philips, like ASML, all top companies. That's very good structured in the Netherlands.
So you do the same. You mean what? Like people from Philips have so many coaches that help them with these different things?
Yeah, if you are a top performer in the organization, if you are a top performer in sport, then you have a lot of coaches. Then there's some, but you really have to, let's show two things. You have the talent, and you are able and disciplined to take the use effort to do it.
So my understanding is that the Dutch approach to business or sport is that when people give a lot, they give a lot of their time and energy and effort and maybe their talent, and they perform well, then they also get a lot help and support to perform even better. Would that be right?
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No.
So still, I'm also interested in what you mean by high performing teams, because now I understand how you approach performance and how people in sport and in business in Holland make performers even better. But what about teams? How do you know a team is high performing? Because it's pretty easy to say when a person is high performing. You have some KPIs in sport, you have these records, some limits, you have to reach them, right? You have to be fast enough or strong enough. But in teams, in business, well, you can also set some KPIs, but I'm interested in, do you think KPIs are the only factor by which we evaluate teams' performance? What exactly is a high-performing team in your view?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I look to high-performing teams, I don't look at the KPIs.
Why not?
I look at the process.
Okay.
So for example, when I look to a soccer team, I don't look how many goals they make, but I look how good do they play the ball from the one player to the other player.
Well, why not? Is soccer not about just getting goals and sort of KPIs?
Yes, but how better you play the ball from the one player to the other player, how more goals you make. You can't. The goal is at the end. You can't learn. You can look how many goals, how better do they play the ball. So when I have played 10 balls good to you and you make one goal, then I know the next time I have to play 20 balls good to you. Then you make 2 goals and 30 balls. That's the process. And then one of the important things of a high-performing team is how many times do the individuals and the teams ask themselves 2 questions. What are we doing well? What do we can do better? The last year, the last month, the last week, the last 10 minutes, how more often you say that and really reflect on it, that's a high-performing team. So I don't look really at the KPIs. I look at the performance, how they collaborate, how they train. And then I think when I have made for something the model, I call it the team performance. I say the first thing is this, do we have the same purpose? And is that purpose connected us to each other? And if we have that, then comes the most important thing in teamwork, is it psychological safety in this team? Do we have psychological safety that we can make failures, that can we talk about our failures? When we have that stage, then we come on stage that we really can give feedback to each other. We only can give feedback to each other if we feel psychological safe, if we have a connection with each other and we have the same purpose. And I think that's similar to what Tuckman says about team performance. Then you have the norming. The norming is how we give feedback. And then we want to go to performing, and high performing are two elements very important. The first is ask questions, and the second is have reflection with each other. So a high performing teams is always reflecting on what they do and always ask questions to each other. And always ask questions that we go further than the status quo. And that process, if that's in order, then you reach the most you reach.
Yeah.
So, the KPI is, it's for me as coach, not interested at the time. Because I think when we do a good process for a high performing team, you reach the best you can. And more, it's impossible. I'm sorry.
It's very interesting what you're saying right now, because as you were talking in this moment, I just realized that the godfather of action learning, Reg Evans, was both a sports person. He was an Olympic medalist.
In 1928 in Amsterdam.
Oh, in Amsterdam. I'm very curious.
In the Netherlands.
I didn't know that. And he was a scientist. And I guess now that you're talking about sport and asking questions, I knew that from science, he drew that conclusion, that practice, that notion of asking questions. Because if you make scientific experiments, you have to ask questions all the time. What is the hypothetical result of this experiment? Why is the effect of this experiment this and not that? What exactly happened? You have to analyze data and so on. But now that you're saying that in sport, it is also important to ask a lot of questions and analyze, now I understand why he got this notion of getting people together in business and making them ask questions, because he knew how important questions are from science and sport. And then I guess he took it to the British industry and business. Tuan, can you give any examples of problems or projects that you ran with your action learning? To get very specific, do you remember any problem statements that you worked on, or how that changed in the process? What effects you saw at the end of the program?
Yes, I have two kind of problems. I say always we have external problems and internal problems. And with the internal problems, I say, because there are too many people sick of the work we are doing.
Okay.
The people in our company are not motivated to give more effort to reach our goals. It's not psychological safe to work together.
Okay. And these are the external problems or internal?
Internal problems.
Okay.
Yes.
And are these the problems that you really worked on with your action learning teams?
Yes.
You did.
Yes. And when I look to external problems, is clients.
Okay.
We're losing our position on the market. We're not able to say to our customers that we have the real solution for them. We have problems with the legal in the country. That are external problems, and that is where I work on. And then, for example, when I work for the bank, they say, okay, we are a bank, and in the Netherlands, 35% of the people doesn't live in a house they want to live in.
Oh.
And they say, how can we fix it as a bank with our money to make everybody let's live in the house they want to live in? That's a big challenge.
Yeah, and and it's very interesting that a bank, a commercial institution, is trying to influence, I'm understanding, a social problem, right?
Yes. And then the first question is this an opportunity, or is this a purpose for a bank?
Exactly.
And then you go talk, and then somebody says, but we have a bank, we bring in the finance to the people so they can buy the house.
Yeah.
Okay. But and then it's the interesting thing. But if we're going to help this 35% of the people, are we going to earn more money as a bank or less money? Okay, maybe less money. Okay, then it's the other question: can we take the risk?
Mm-hmm.
The risk that we're going to earn less money than last year, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that's a very complicated process. And the only thing how you can have a connection with each other, everybody's looking to do the same purpose, the same problem, is to ask questions, listening to each other, and looking what's the problem after the problem.
And is that one of the problems that you also used action learning for? The one with the bank?
Yes, absolutely. And then it's okay when we want to solve this problem for the Dutch people, so that in 10 years everybody has the house. They live in the house where they want to live in.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the problems we have to solve for the people?
Uh-huh.
And what are the problems we have to solve in our organization?
And is that project done, or are you still working on that problem?
We started with this problem. Now we have worked 1 year to look what are the teams we need, who are the people who want to have to collaborate with each other, and now we're starting with it. And I think this process is going to be a lifelong.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's an infinite process.
So you took 1 year to prepare?
In this case, but this is a case for 1 year. We work with a company, the greatest bank in the Netherlands, with 150,000 employees. They all have to change a lot of things. It costs just to prepare the action learning process. So I don't start the first day doing an action learning session or something.
Yeah.
This costs a lot of time.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Tuan, my last question is this. What advice would you give to some trainers and coaches, consultants, maybe people working inside organizations who want to take their team coaching to the next level? Maybe they want to start their journey with team coaching. What advice would you give? And to paraphrase that question is this: what are some important lessons that you learned along the way since you began your team coaching? And now, what are some important facts that you learned about and that you could give to other people as a piece of advice?
Do you have 10 hours?
I don't, but we can stay as long as we need.
Yes, okay.
But try to tell me those things in some bullet points.
Yes, I think the first thing, never call it we're going to do action learning, or we're going to do Scrum, or we're going to do Agile. No, we're going to work on a team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what you have to, if you have to work on a team. And then I think the most important thing is that you are really interested in the people in your team. What's on their minds? What are their personal ambitions? How do they live? What are the problems they have with their children? What are the challenges they have for the children? And then can you make the connection so that the team can help them? That's the first thing. So be a real person. It's all about human. And then when you go to look at a goal, let's look what the team wants as their goal. And then I don't talk about especially only about the KPIs, but just on the purpose. What do you really want to fix? What do you want to bring into the world? That is also very, very important. And then if you know that, then you can start a process. And then another thing, what you also have to do is starting the development of your learning program or the development of your action learning program together with the team. Don't say to them, okay, I have a trick for you. That's called action learning. Mm-hmm. Every 3 weeks we come together and then we do a process. You set a leadership skill on the board. Then we're going to talk about the problem. And after 15 minutes, I'm going to ask you to write the problem down. You read it, etc., etc. You know the process of action learning. Now, do that together with them. Because when I was by a company, it was very interesting. We do action learning for 15 teams. Mm-hmm. And 2 teams were the pilot. So they have given their opinion how to do it. And then we said, okay, we do 10 sessions. And after 10 sessions, 8 teams quit immediately. Mm-hmm. But the other 2 teams, they're going further. And not because they were better in the process or had more connection with it. I don't know, because they had told their opinion in the development. Mm-hmm. So Immediately when you think, now I'm going to work on a team, tell it to the team. Ask questions to the team. Let them do it together with the team, and don't make the program to somebody else. Not in the top, and absolutely not a consultant from outside. Do it together.
Thanks so
Thanks
much, Tuan. Very interesting. For all of you guys who are curious about how to learn action learning, if you are Polish, if you understand Polish, go to whilepoland.org, and the link is in the description below of this video. There you will see some information about action learning, and there is a page about the School of Action Learning, and the School of Action Learning will teach you how to use action learning and will allow you to get certified with the World Institute for Action Learning. While certifies action learning coaches, and the School of Action Learning takes 5 days if it's stationary, 6 days if it's online. You get access to the online platform, and we work in small groups. There's a lot of practice, and all the details you will find there at whilepoland.org, and the link is in the description. And if you are Dutch, go check out While Netherlands. And I will ask you later on, Twine, about the link, and I will also put it in the description of this video, so all the Dutch people who happen to come across this video online can go there too and maybe sign up for your course and learn action learning. It's been wonderful to talk to you, Tuan. Thanks so much for accepting this invitation.
Thank you for inviting me. I have a lot of pleasure with it, and I wish you and all the people in Poland much success and have fun with action learning. Thank you very much.
Thanks again. Many thanks to all of you watching this webinar. Take good care, keeping fingers crossed for you guys, and I will stay in touch. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and I will, if you are in While Poland's newsletter, I will let you know about the new recordings and the new live webinars. Take good care. Bye-bye.